My name is Alina. Last week I killed my father. That part you already know, at least the version the news fed you. Local girl loses it, murders retired history teacher in cold blood. They used my high school photo, the one where I'm smiling with my head tilted like I don't have a blade in my hand and blood on my palms. No one mentions how he asked me to do it, or what happened after. They don't know about the door under our basement, the one I was never allowed to open, or the sound it made the night before he died, low, humming, like something old and hungry was waking up. They don't know the truth about my family, because the truth is my father wasn't a bad man, but he wasn't a good one either. He made a deal before I was born, something ancient, something patient, and I was the price. He tried to protect me, taught me Latin when I was 6, made me recite spells like bedtime prayers, gave me iron charms for every birthday, told me never to trust anyone who smelled like roses out of season. I thought he was eccentric. Now I know better. On my 21st birthday, he gave me the key to everything. I thought it was metaphorical. It wasn't. It was a real key, bone white, etched in something that wasn't quite writing. And 12 hours later, he knelt in front of me, eyes wild with fear and love, and whispered, "It has to be you. Do it before they come." I did. Now there's blood on my hands, a message scorched into drywall, and a cult that's finally come to collect. This is the story of why I had to kill my father, and what happens when you inherit a war you never asked for. The bone key. The key burned cold in my pocket. Not metaphorically, cold, like it had been pulled from a glacier instead of a velvet box lined with dried lavender and ash. I kept touching it, hoping the sensation would change, hoping this was still some bizarre, trauma-fueled hallucination. It wasn't. Every time my fingers brushed the jagged ridges, they came away tingling, like I'd been holding something electric and wrong. After I killed my father, I sat with him for hours. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just stared at him, trying to understand the look on his face. Peace, maybe. Relief. His last breath had left a smile behind, a terrible, twisted thing that still haunts me. Behind him, carved deep into the wall with the same knife I'd used, were the words, "You must finish what I couldn't." The police said it was a psychotic break, some deep-rooted trauma snapping after years of pressure. They kept asking about my mother. I don't even remember her. She disappeared when I was 3 and Dad never spoke her name. The therapist they assigned me, Dr. Keating, keeps hinting at repressed memories, but he doesn't understand. There's no trauma, only truth. And it's uglier than anything they're ready to believe. Now, 3 days after the funeral, I unlocked the door in the basement. It had always been there. Hidden behind the old shelving unit he kept padlocked and filled with mousetraps. The bone key fit perfectly into a rusted keyhole at its base. When I turned it, something inside the wall sighed, like the house had been holding its breath for 21 years. Behind the door was a stairwell carved directly into bedrock. No lights, no railings, just stone and a smell I can only describe as antique rot, not death. Older than death, like something that had been waiting in the dark for a long, long time. I didn't want to go down there, but the key pulled me. 10 steps in, the door slammed shut behind me. 20 steps in, I heard whispers. 30 steps in, I stopped breathing. Not out of fear, but because the air was changing, becoming thicker, heavier, like walking into the mouth of something that might close at any moment. At the bottom of the stairs was a door, not wood, not metal, but something organic. It pulsed, once, twice, like a heartbeat, and then I heard it, the voice. "Welcome, daughter of the oath." It wasn't my father's voice, it was hers. The mother I don't remember, and she sounded hungry. The oath I didn't move, I couldn't. The voice had come from nowhere, no speakers, no echo. It spoke inside me, vibrating through my bones like an old melody I'd forgotten I knew. My hands trembled, but the key in my pocket stayed cold and still, as if waiting for a command I hadn't given. Daughter of the oath. Blood of the binder, flesh of the final seal. The words rang out again, softer this time, almost reverent, almost loving. But there was something beneath the surface, something slick and coiled and watching. I turned around to run. The staircase was gone. Where the stone steps had been was now a smooth, solid wall, black as coal and warm to the touch, like skin. I pressed my palm against it, and it shivered beneath me. I wasn't in the basement anymore. When I was 12, my father told me monsters weren't real. He said evil was just a lack of understanding, and that everything terrible in the world had a story if you looked deep enough. He lied. There was no understanding what waited behind the second door. I turned back towards it, the organic one. It had stopped pulsing. For a long moment, there was silence. I almost believed I'd imagined it all, that I could wake up on the cold floor of the basement, vomit-stained and dissociating, and chalk this up to grief and guilt. Then the door peeled open. It didn't swing or creak, it peeled, layer by layer, like wet bark from a dying tree. Behind it was a chamber lit by candles floating in the air, their flames perfectly still. And in the center stood a woman, naked, pale, eyes black from lid to lid. Her skin was stitched with symbols, burned in, scarred deep. Her mouth did not move, but her voice echoed inside me again. "You were promised to us, Alina." I stepped back. "You carry the blood of the binder, the first oathbreaker. Your father tried to seal what could not be unbound. He failed." She raised her hand. The bone key flew from my pocket and landed in her palm like it had always belonged to her. "But you will finish the work, or you will die trying." I don't remember how I got out. I woke up on the floor of the basement, bruised and breathless, the shelving unit back in place, the door sealed as if it never existed, so the key was gone. My father's voice rang in my ears. "Do it before they come." Too late, they were already here, and now every night I dream of her, my mother or whatever she's become, whispering things I'm starting to understand, things I'm afraid might be true. The Watchers. The first one came on a Tuesday. He looked normal, plaid shirt, beard, coffee cup in hand, the kind of guy you'd see at the farmer's market or fixing your neighbour's roof. But his eyes lingered too long, and when I passed him on the street outside the library, he smiled like he knew me, not from school, not from around town, from somewhere older, somewhere deeper. I ignored him. That night my car wouldn't start. The engine was fine, no alarms, just dead. Like the battery had been drained from the inside out. That same night, I found the journal. It was hidden behind a false panel in my father's study, a panel I'd only found because I knocked over one of the old history books he never let me touch, occult histories of pre-Roman cults, and it hit the wall with a hollow thunk. Behind the panel was a single leather-bound book wrapped in red thread. No title, no author, just a wax seal on the first page, a serpent devouring its own tail. I broke it. The journal wasn't a diary, it was a record, a ledger of rituals, names, bloodlines, mine. Alina, born June 13th, marked under eclipse, vessel confirmed. Mother, Lydia, ascended. Father, Caleb, witness, binder, traitor, oath reinforced June 21st. Emergency protocol, if vessel rejects binding, initiate severance. Every word made my stomach turn. I flipped ahead. The pages were written in different inks, some scorched at the edges, some smeared like they'd been written in blood. One passage was underlined twice in red. There will come a day when the key seeks the daughter, and the dead will rise not from the grave, but from memory. On that day, the Watchers will descend, and no door will stay shut. The next morning, someone had carved a symbol into my front door, a perfect circle. Inside it, a spiral. The same mark from the wax seal, the same one on the woman's chest in the chamber below the basement. I didn't sleep that night, and when I checked my phone in the morning, there was one new message. No number, just text. You opened the door, you can't close it. And beneath it, a photo, taken from outside my window at 3:03 a.m. while I was asleep. The visitor. It started with the smell, not something obvious, nothing you'd catch unless you were paying attention, but it crept in under the door around midnight, the scent of roses. Out of season, the kind Dad used to warn me about. "If you ever smell roses in winter," he once said, "lock your doors and don't speak until dawn." It was June, but the scent was wrong. Too thick, too sweet, like it wasn't meant for lungs. I locked every window, every door. And then I heard the knock, not loud, not threatening, just patient. 3 soft taps, then silence, then again, tap, tap, tap. I didn't answer. I sat at the kitchen table with Dad's journal in one hand and the knife I'd used to kill him in the other. The knocking didn't stop. 1:12 a.m. The power went out. No warning, no storm. Just a soft click and the hum of the refrigerator died. The streetlights outside winked off. My phone dimmed. A second later, its screen cracked on its own, like pressure from inside the glass had shattered it. That's when the whispering started. It came from the vents, from the floorboards, from the walls. "Vessel! Ours! Return what was promised." Something scraped across the porch, a dragging sound, like a bare foot trailing across dry wood. I crept toward the peephole. There was nothing outside, and then I blinked, and a woman's face was inches from the glass, but she wasn't human, not fully. Her skin was too tight, too pale. Her eyes were hollow and shining like wet obsidian, and her mouth didn't move when she spoke. The blood opened the door. The blood must close it. I stumbled back. The air was thick again, like it had been in the chamber. Hard to breathe, hard to think. Then I saw it, etched into her collarbone, the spiral. She raised a hand, pressed it to the door, and pushed. The wood groaned, cracked, and began to splinter, as if it wasn't a door at all, but paper. My father's words screamed in my head. "Do it before they come. Too late." I backed into the kitchen and grabbed the iron horseshoe my father had nailed over the stove. He always said it was a ward, said iron could hold things out that had no name. I didn't believe him until that moment. I held it up like a crucifix and shouted, "I reject the oath!" The woman hissed. Not like an animal, like steam escaping something pressurized. Her skin cracked, black veins spiderwebbing across her face. Then she screamed. Not a sound, but a pressure, a force. The front window shattered, and she was gone. By morning, the door was untouched. No cracks, no roses, no spiral. But the horseshoe was warped in my hand, bent into the shape of an eye, and the journal was open to a page I hadn't marked. A new entry. "They found you. Run."